let's move on to the Microsoft AI and Surface event, Pat. We brought the 6.5, we brought the analysis. First of all, just a really good event. I love these kind of pop-up, one-day, high impact, lots of announcements, big mix of media personalities, analysts, executives, a lot of access. And when I say a lot of access, Pat, first time in 5 years that Satya sat down and really did an in-depth conversation with the analysts here. Was amazing. And not only did he sit down, but he was very engaged, connected, and grateful, which I loved. And gave us a lot of great feedback, Pat. And we covered the gamut of hybrid on-premise data. You asked a great question. I think you got great question twice in one answer from him. So that was the most great question that he gave to anybody. All the way to, where I was asking him about regulatory and policy. And he really gave us a very, succinct feedback on all of that. But moreover, let's talk about what got announced. I'm going to talk about the co-pilots, Pat, and I'll leave you to talk about the devices a little bit, maybe. And obviously, as much as you want to talk about the co-pilots. But, we're entering an era where, we need to bring simplicity and we need to bring generative AI value to our organizations. We've been hyping and talking, and Microsoft has been at the forefront since November of last year when ChatGPT hit. It made its early announcements. Pat, we were in Redmond beginning of the year. We heard about the first Bing with GPT inside of it. And then it started moving through the M365. It started moving into Edge and Windows 11. It started moving into productivity tools. And of course, D365. We're going to see co-pilots in everything. But really the idea is a co-pilot for everyone. And it's kind of starting off with a co-pilot for the consumer and a co-pilot for the enterprise. And then as we move forward, and this was something I'm very interested in, we're going to start to see Microsoft really attempting to deliver a co-pilot for your life, which is going to blend the physical and work and digital and consumer experiences together. And yesterday was really a moment where we saw some GA happen. I think one of the biggest announcements, the ones I got most excited about, was the co-pilot going GA for M365 and their productivity suite. Pat, I have been waiting to try this. I believe I'm really influential, but they did not let me have it. So my ego has been in a cobweb in the corner of the office for a while, but my ego is coming back because I'm going to be building PowerPoints in 2 seconds when it's going to be able to read my mind. And Pat, another thing is I loved was the Outlook tool, the Sound Like Me tool that was announced yesterday. I don't know if anybody knows, but I really love the way I write. I'm kidding today. I'm just feeling spunky. But the idea of a lot of generated text is, you read it, Pat. We've talked about some analysts that probably shouldn't be proud of the fact that they do most of their writing with ChatGPT or other tools now. I call them, gross. They're just tools, period. But the idea of it being inspirational is great. But what about the idea of it being inspirational and then being on tone to sound like you? Yeah. When I write an email, there's a way that I address people. There is a way that I send off people. There is kind of an inflection that I use inside of my in my writing that right now, when I use tools to look at it, doesn't sound anything like that. And that's mostly been testing for me, Pat. But the idea that we could have these tools sound just like us with the click of a button is very, very cool to me. So yesterday but in my opinion, was really all about, I put out a tweet kind of like a too long, don't read. And I said it was all about kind of the democratization of the co-pilot for, bringing the co-pilot to the person. And that's really what happened yesterday, whether you're in Windows, in whether you're in the Edge browser, whether you're in the applications. And Microsoft really showed its hand that it's going to move from the consumer edge of the browser and Windows all the way to the enterprise edge of your Dynamics and of your enterprise search. And I felt that, Pat, that was a really powerful point. We had some good time with the leadership team, not just Satya. We got face-to-face with fellows. We got face-to-face with heads of Surface, heads of AI strategy, Pat. A lot of talk about responsible AI. And so I'm going to leave it there, let you kind of chime in here. It was a really exciting, I don't know, I left energized, although I won't lie, I did fall asleep on the flight home. I was exhausted.
Well, after all that New York deli stuff, I would totally understand that.
It was like a 4-pound turkey sandwich. And You know, I ate yours too.
I know, half of it.
Well, I was
So,
hungry.
you know, Satya did a really good job kicking it off, really making the case for this being a new category, new interface, new reasoning engine equals new category. And if you look at how long that we've been using keyboard and mouse to get in there and trackpad, I think he has a good case, and I don't think he stretched it too far at all. Like you said, really the punchline of the event was Copilot, right? One experience, two products, one experience. And this cuts across consumer and businesses. And I think this is a differentiator. They're the only company at scale who is doing this for both right now. And, you know, there's a lot of arguments for Google and what they're doing. They don't touch as many businesses, but they touch more consumers. I expect Apple to show up at some point, and they're primarily a consumer play. One thing that a lot of people missed, because I saw, you know, some of the coverage from some of the press, it's like, you know, way to hold of an event for nearly no new products in GA for Microsoft 365. This capability is now embedded into Windows, and it's adding generative AI capabilities into Photos. It's adding generative AI into things like Clipchamp, which is so easy. I might actually use to get some of my videos and content onto Instagram, and I think that's what people missed. A black and white upgrade in Big Image Creator using DALL-E 3. I mean, I was not that impressed. I probably wouldn't have used much of the content that came out of the original Bing image creator, but I can see myself using this one now.
Looked great. It did. It looked
It
great.
did look phenomenal, and you know, the first version, right? This just came with DALL-E. You know, faces were weird, hands were weird, humans were weird,
Yep.
and I think I saw enough to know that this is going to be different. New Surface devices surfaced as well, right? And I think the one that I'm most excited about, and probably you, because you carry this as your daily go-to, is the Laptop Studio. I carry a 15-inch Surface, but I just really enjoyed some of the usage scenarios running circles around the MacBook Pro and M2 Max. They did a visual imaging demo, and it lapped the MacBook by 3 to 4x as they were running a Llama 2 instance. I love that stuff, and really gave us a peek to what the next generation of generative AI experiences are going to be. Some of those experiences will be delivered through the cloud, primarily delivered through the cloud. Some of them will be primarily delivered on the client computer, and some will be a hybrid mixture of those. So I like their strategy. Again, huge Azure, huge capabilities, huge SaaS, particularly on the personal productivity side, and then very big capabilities. And you know, these Windows capabilities are not just on Surface; they're in other brands as well as provided by the Windows operating system. Great stuff. I want to follow up on my one question I got with Satya. If we've ever been in an event together, right? Or a big part of my research is that I'm trying to get my head around is public cloud is 14 years old, and first AWS service was 2009. It was a queuing service. Yet 75 to 90% of enterprise data is still on-prem or in devices and not in the cloud. So how does anybody activate these types of experiences if you've got to have access to the data, and you either have to infer on it, you have to train on it, at a minimum, you have to prompt against it. And, you know, one way to do it is send it up to the cloud. And that's what we've seen in these first level experience. But I asked him, what is your strategy with this in mind? And net, he said, Microsoft is going to activate the data wherever it sits. And he cited the Oracle database at Azure as a good example. He cited some things that I took as Azure stack. And if I read between the lines of his response, I wish I would have recorded it. I saw little pieces of federated learning. And federated learning is doing the activation wherever the data is. They have Azure Stack as well, which is I find. So that's one thing I'm going to keep my eyes on. But Satya seemed very confident in his responses to me on that.
Yeah, and just a quick boomerang because we got to keep moving here. But the idea of a natural language interface and reasoning engine was a big takeaway here, and this was kind of my Shazam moment. Is the human machine era begins when we are able to naturally interface with the machine, and the machine understands and reasons with us in a way that feels empathic and human. And as you tie these things together, it gets really interesting and really exciting.